Welcome home, brave heroes, denizens of chaos, and Sigmar's chosen alike. I am Ash, this is Ash Quest, and this is Dreadfane, the Barnes & Noble exclusive entry point into the Warhammer Underworlds gaming system. It released in 2019, Underworlds itself being the tactical miniatures game of deadly arena combat from Games Workshop, in which two players, ages 12 and up, skirmish for a session that may last between 30 and 45 minutes, although I would argue seasoned players should be able to knock out a game in 20 minutes. You may or may not know that I have been addicted to Underworlds lately. There are many seasons of Underworlds, but there are two editions. I kind of go through this introductory terminology with every Underworlds episode I do, so bear with me. When a season comes along, it may or may not replace rules or elements of previous seasons for tournament players. The rules for the game are different in subtle ways in between seasons, but each season has its own box set, and many warbands, which are released in that season, that will of course be compatible with that season, again in tournament play. If you don't care about tournament play, then the best thing to do is just to hunt you down a box of Warhammer Underworlds, maybe based on what warbands you like best. Each box is going to come with two, and just play. I'm not going to flip this box upside down just yet, because there's a lot in here that I would like to take out first. One of the absolute worst things about Underworlds is what's inside the box. It's not limited to Underworlds, it's a Games Workshop thing. It's not practical to store things back inside a Games Workshop box these days. Things will shuffle around, they will break. I see the baggies, I see them, they were included, but my miniatures are not going to be helped by this. Now we can flip the box over. Mighty champions do battle in the cursed arenas of the Mirrored City. It is very important to note that this is Warhammer Age of Sigmar. That's the setting. Dreadfane is an action-packed combat game for two players. Gather your warband, enhance your warriors with unique skills and upgrades, and lead them to victory against your foes. Dreadfane comes with Iron Soul's Condemners and Lady Harrow's Mournflight. That's Stormcasts, Eternals, and Undead. There is a box, I believe that came out around the Beastgrave season, called Champions of Dreadfane. That is not a standalone box, this is. The contents are nearly identical, except being that this is a standalone box, it comes with the map, and it comes with a first in the Underworlds series of games, a deck of hazard cards. I haven't seen them since, but you can add these to your other seasons or editions of Underworlds. Well, I say you can add them to your other editions. The newest edition of Underworlds seems to incompatibilize pretty much everything before it except for the miniatures. A lot of people have complained in my comments on Reddit and beyond about the season format and how Games Workshop quickly moved from season to season, invalidating all of the stuff before it. But being that this channel is primarily focused on at-home 1 to 2 player tabletop gameplay, none of that matters. And none of it will matter to you if you're not a tournament player. This game comes with your typical glory point tokens, which are double-sided, but one side is the exhausted or spent side, while the other side is the fresh new side. Wounds tokens and tokens to place on your character's tiles, indicating that they have moved and cannot move again this round, are in guard mode, and thus both the shield and evade symbols on the die will protect them, or at least mitigate against the enemy roll, and charge tokens, which indicate that this character cannot move or attack for the rest of this round. Charging is highly effective, but it is exhausting. We've got 4 tokens that look very new to me, and 2 more environment tokens that I haven't seen before. They are also double-sided. It's going to be really interesting to see what these represent. We have our set of combat dice, 5 attack dice, and 3 save dice or defense dice. I happen to really like Underworld's dice. Between the attack and the defense, mechanically they are nearly identical. You will have a critical success. It doesn't matter what your opponent rolls. If you roll a critical success, you automatically are going to win, unless your opponent also rolls a critical success. Then the attack is going to be failed, unless you roll a critical success and also a number of other successes on the die, if they are applicable, or if you roll more critical successes than your opponent. Attack dice have 2 strike faces and 1 crossed swords face. Successful attacks, successful attack only if the card says so, card or ability. Likewise, the defend dice has 2 shield symbols, which are always going to guard your mini if that miniature uses a shield symbol to guard, or an evade symbol. It only has 1 face on the die. A miniature that is guarding is going to be able to use all 3 of these faces on the die, so they have a 50% chance of guarding, at least against a successful attack. That's by default. There are other faces on the dice. This is the flanked face. Hi, I'm Lady Harrow. Hi, I'm Stormcast Eternal. Let's be adjacent and fight. I'm going to attack you. What's that? One of my fellow Stormcast Eternals is behind you? That means if I roll the flanked symbol when I attack, it will count as a success. Oh yeah? Well, what's this? One of my ghostly envoy friends is right behind you? That means if I roll the flanked symbol, it will count as a success when I am defending. Alright, hopefully that wasn't too brain rotty. This is the surrounded face, and it means the same thing as the flanked face, except it applies to 2 or more miniatures, instead of just one other than the origin of the attack. Dreadfane comes with the rulebook as well as the Learn to Play. So these should be the same book, but that's how it is sometimes. A masonite sheet of absolutely nothing but to separate the books from the miniature sprues, I suppose. And a pamphlet to welcome you to the world of fantasy games. Dreadfane is here, as is Night Vault, which is another season of the first edition. Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar's Soul Wars, Dark Imperium, Blackstone Fortress, Tempest of Souls, Blood Bowl, and Black Library titles before we get to the White Dwarf adverts on the back. Always really cool to see these. It's like a snapshot of history adjacent to the game. I think it lends some awesome brand legitimacy and power to whatever box they're in, no matter what the year is, no matter what kinds of products are inside. The other unique thing about Dreadfane in particular is its board. It has one board. Typically, Underworlds comes with a set of boards, 2 double-sided boards. You'll do a roll-off in which you and your opponent will roll the dice, and whoever has more successes will be able to choose the board that they start on. You can choose either board and you can choose either side, and you'll set that down. Your opponent will then take the other board and decide what orientation and direction it will go relative to your board. Thus, together you will create the map. Dreadfane is a little different. The boards in question are attached this time. We have just one board, and we have the orientation here doesn't matter in the slightest, but if you flip the board upside down, you have, well, the other side of the board on which you can play the game. Underworlds usually comes with a tile sheet that has objective marker tokens. These are hexes that you place directly on the map and flip to reveal what number the objective is. The objectives are important because while you can absolutely spend your entire game trying to steamroll your opponent, and you will of course earn glory points for every enemy you take down, that's not the only way to win Warhammer Underworlds. In fact, you can win without striking a single blow at all. Holding objectives is one of the many ways you can score glory points in Underworlds. However, in Dreadfane, these tiles are foregone. Instead, we have baked-in objectives that never change because they are right on the map, printed. Objective 2 will always be right here on this side of the map. Objective 4 will always be here on this side of the map. Now, I tried to be very light with the introduction of Underworlds with this episode. I really just wanted to focus on the contents of Dreadfane. Lady Harrow's Mournflight was rewarding to put together, but man, there were some fiddly bits. We're actually going to fly down onto the map so you can see these miniatures in detail. These miniatures depict... Hold on, I'm looking for their lore. Where is the lore? There's no lore? There is no lore. What about the Learn to Play guide? Hold on, there's some lore. Where's the lore? The Dreadfane is enclosed within a Shadeglass circuit based upon the infinitely complex workings of the Faneway itself. This once prevented the soul-forged gladiators from ever escaping to cause havoc amidst the city proper, and granted those cataphragms who specialized in the animating magic a safe laboratory in which to carry out their studies. Nagash is the central figure across the entirety of the first edition of Underworlds, has cursed the Dreadfane to transform it into a terrible prison. Worshippers of foul gods and bands of savage, war-loving orcs hack each other down in an endless loop, while rat-like Skaven stalk the arena floor in swarming backs, their frantic desire to escape soon turning into violent frenzy. The spirits of the Night Haunt are drawn to the Dreadfane in great numbers. True servants of Nagash, these vengeful geists savor the pain and sorrow that emanate from the arena, and are given leave to take out their own bitter fury upon the occupants by their master. Into this nightmare step the Stormcast Eternals. These towering heroes are the elite soldiers of the God King Sigmar, a warrior deity of order and the sworn foe of Nagash. Leading one such band of champions is Gwyn Ironsoul, a formidable agent of the Sacrosanct Chambers. Ironsoul and her companions, Tavian of Tavian of Sarnassus, and the redoubtable... Focus, please. The redoubtable Brodus Blightbane. Brodus. Are sequitors of the Hammers of Sigmar, first and most storied of the God King's storm hosts. These specialists channel the magical tempest of Aesir through their weapons, smiting the demonic and the undead with thunderous force. Yet Ironsoul and her warriors are hunted by a truly fearsome foe. The Maimorn Banshee, known as Lady Harrow, has been tasked by Almighty Nagash with hunting down intruders in the Mirrored City. Cursed with a desperate hunger for arcane energies, she has caught the scent of Azerite magic and now seeks to feast upon the essence of Gwyn Ironsoul and her warriors. Lady Harrow is accompanied by a retinue of fellow banshees, all of whom share her obsessive need for magical sustenance, including the Anguished One, Widow Katha, and the Maiden. This is a 4v3 beatdown. Nothing left to do but show you the cards, and I really want to show you these cards. These cards are drawn in the Hazard phase, a phase that I do believe is unique to this edition of the game. It's hard for me to call Dreadfane a season, because I'm pretty sure it's not a season, even if I have been referring to it as such, because I refer to all of these boxes as seasons. But I don't think Dreadfane actually was a season. It didn't have any warbands released for it. It was just this Barnes & Noble exclusive to get more players in, and I think only in the US. I'm actually not sure if Barnes & Noble is a US only store. Quick Google search could tell me that, but I'm lazy. Nevertheless, the Hazard phase may add a lot to your Underworlds games, particularly because there are a lot of cards in the deck, but you will draw one for the first round of the game at the very beginning and resolve its effects, 2 for the second round and 3 for the third round. A game of Underworlds only lasts for 3 rounds, so you might play 3 games and never see the same Hazard card twice. They include Shyish Realmscape. Death magic suffuses the arena and healed wounds reopen, allowing blood and death to flow freely once more. At the start of the end phase, the players roll off. Starting with the loser, the players roll an attack dice for each friendly fighter that has 1 or more wound tokens. On a roll of the Warhammer, that fighter is dealt 1 damage. Discard this card at the start of the next Hazard phase. Fluctuating Power. The Dreadfane pulses with forbidden power, and opportunity awaits those who can harness it. Players roll off. That's how a lot of this is going to go, actually. Starting with the loser, the players draw 2 power cards and then discard 2 power cards. Discard this card. At this point in the game, you will have drawn 5 power cards. These are for your warband to use. The power cards in these older editions were pretty specific to the warband. The objective cards also. But objective cards and power cards are now collected together in decks that represent one of 4 playstyles: Flex, Strike, Take and Hold, or Mastery. So nowadays, in a game of Underworlds, you will select the warband that you think caters to your style of play, and then you will equip it with a deck of cards that you believe caters to your style of play. And these decks are all pre-built. They have the correct number of objective cards and power cards, and the power cards deck is made up of the correct number and or ratio of gambits or ploys and upgrades. If all of that sounds a bit convoluted, it does sound convoluted. But it's not. It's pretty simple once you've done it once or twice. Then you can kind of see things for what they are, and yeah, it just flows. You can, of course, do deck building depending on the mode of play. You've got the Nemesis format, the Rivals format, but we're already a bit out of scope. Let's just continue looking at the Hazard deck. Contest of Champions, Change of Plans, Gravity Well, Spear Traps, Whirring Blades. I like this. Spinning saw blades just emerge from the walls of the arena. Any fighter that makes a move action that takes them through or is pushed through any edge hex is dealt 1 damage for each edge hex they move or are pushed through. So all of these hexes along the edge of the board, obviously not counting the ones that are inaccessible to movement because you can't move on those. Spark of Ignition, Tilted Arena Floor, Unremitting Violence, Crumbling Floors, Acid Bath, A Prize Revealed, Whirling Saw Blade, Ketafrane Defense Systems, Gyr Amber Shard, Azure Realmscape, Burning Comet, Teleportation Glitch, Akshi Realmscape. Some of these have quotations on them that reference the warband specific to this box, but I tell you that doesn't matter in the slightest. They apply to any and every warband that you could bring into the game. There's no doubt in my mind that they will apply to any map boards as well if you bring them outside of this particular box, since all of the map boards are different across every box, season, and edition of the game. The rulebook is pretty cool because it does explain the Shadespire lore, which is present in the very first season of the first edition, which was just called Shadespire. It gives you the introduction, the anatomy of the fighter cards, the decks, an anatomy of the battlefield and what the different hexes mean, how to move on hexes if you never have before. Oh, these were activation tokens, that's all they were. These just keep track of the activations you have before the round ends. It's nice to have those. If you've been playing Underworlds for a while, you probably aren't even using them though, because I don't know that I've unboxed a box yet that have had activation tokens. I think it was just a nice to have. later on. So yeah, your activation tokens come with the symbols specifically for Iron Soul's Condemners and for Lady Harrow's Mournflight. They're not supremely necessary. At this point in time, I would like to point out that your fighters can also become inspired. They have their standard stats and the conditions under which they will become inspired, or a more powerful version of themselves that will keep until the end of the game. We have our power deck and objectives deck. The objectives in Underworlds don't just include stomping your opponent, which is absolutely a great way to win, but your opponent could still win because you've only got 3 rounds of play, 4 activations per round. You're only going to ever have these 4 sort of turns that happen in a game, not counting the power phases or the hazard phase of this box. Etheric Mastery is one such objective. The warriors of the Sacrosanct Chambers are suffused with the fury of Sigmar's Tempest. These are specific to this warband. Again, something that's been phased out in the new edition of Underworlds, but you will score this in an end phase if there are 2 or more surviving friendly fighters and all friendly fighters are inspired. And that's if you have this objective card in your hand. Scoring more glory points at the end of the game is the real goal. If you crush your opponents entirely and there are none of them left on the board, they can't score more glory points, so you might be able to win by default. Forceful Banishment awards you 1 glory point. You'll score it immediately when an enemy fighter is driven back by a friendly fighter's attack action that has the knockback ability. You do have to kind of be paying attention, but you can only hold 3 objective cards at any one time, so you've got plenty of visibility on what your objectives will be for that round. Other objective cards include Sally Forth, Storm-Forged Heroes, Strength and Unity, Uncontested Might, Vengeance Satisfied, Vindicated Arrogance, Wrathful Blow, and Your Turn. The strike of a shield can leave a foe reeling and helpless for a comrade's killing strike. Score this immediately when an enemy fighter is driven back into a hex adjacent to a friendly fighter. Power cards include Adaptive Tactics, Champions of Sigmar, Fulminating Blast, Improvised Blow, Inevitable Blow, Outflank, Steadfast, Thunderous Smite, Unyielding Resolve, Vengeful Strike, Etherically Charged Shield and Weapon, Consecrated Pendant, Enchanted Robes, Hallowed Aura, Punishing Blow, Sanctified Armor, Soul Hardened Shield, Spirit Flask, and Stoic Stance. I think a lot of these cards, if I'm not mistaken, are mechanical repeats from the Stormcast warband that came with Shadespire. If I'm not wrong, they seem like they are 1-to-1 copies. They just have different branding on them. Mournflight's objectives are a little bit different because it caters to a slightly different playstyle. They have Bitter Embrace, Creeping Dread, Dominion of Death, Fleeting Memories. This is a 3 glory point reward. Score this in the 3rd end phase if you have scored the most objective cards. This is some Mario Party bullcrap right here. And so the person with the most stars gets a bunch more stars. Alright, now let's count the stars and see who the winner is. Fleeting Memories, Frozen in Place, Ghostly Torment, Inescapable Hunger, Nagash's Tithe, Nexus of Terror, One Will, Spectral Vortex, Tide of Malice, Call of the Grave, Chilling Scream, Dissipate. We're in the power cards now if you didn't notice the shift from objective symbol to power symbol and the slight difference in color. Chilling Scream, Dissipate, Echoing Spite, Enervating Sorrow, Frightful Aspect, Shared Agony, Soaring Spite, Spectral Charge, Spectral Grasp, Arcane Siphon, Debilitating Aura, Gravesand Glass, Hollow Hatred, Maddening Hunger, Soul Harvest, Soul Leech, Spirit Blade, Swooping Dash, and Veil of Grief. I suppose I raced through these cards just in case you would like to catch a glimpse and pause the video on any of them to see if you have any sort of interest in getting the game based on what objective or power cards are included, or if you'd like to obtain any sort of inspiration from looking at those cards racing across the screen for perhaps your own homebrew in this game or another game. My grand plan was to collect pretty much every warband. That is still my plan. There are 80-something warbands as of the time of this video. It's a ridiculous goal to have, but it is so addicting to collect Underworlds stuff. And I still am pretty firmly rooted in the belief that as long as you two aren't tore up, there we go, about the tournament decisions that Games Workshop has made, and if you are, that's justified, I suppose, you can still get a ton of mileage and a ton of fun out of your existing editions of Underworlds. And if this is your introductory video for some reason to Underworlds, you will be pleased to find that a lot of people who were put off by the tournament changes have thrown their copies to the eBay wins. They are mostly very accessible. This copy of Dreadfane, I think, was only $20. That's just to give you an idea of how accessible they can be. Thank you so much for your kind attention this time around. I know I yap about Underworlds quite a bit. That might slow down here. I don't have too many boxes left to get. And I'm not doing a video for every core box, but I thought that Dreadfane wanted some special attention, being as it came with its own map and its hazards deck, and absolutely no other warbands for the season if it indeed did warrant a tournament season, and its Barnes & Noble exclusivity. But there is more Underworlds content to come in the form of will every single warband hero quest. That's going to be a long video, as well as a few other things that I've got on my homebrew plate. By the way, the game is very fun. I've been playing it on Steam quite a bit. It's the Shadespire edition, but there are, I think, 9 warbands in the game altogether. It's been a lot of fun. That's all for now, brave heroes. Until next time, I bid you a fantastic rest of your day, and a farewell for now. Onward.